Noah had always been curious about the hidden corners of the alien city. It was a place built high and wide, with shining towers that seemed to touch the clouds and streets that glowed with lights brighter than anything back on Earth. He had lived there for only a few months, sent as part of a cultural exchange program, but even in that short time he felt both fascinated and lost. The city was alive with movement, hovering transports, neon markets, and thousands of different voices speaking languages he could barely understand. But it was in the lower levels, far away from the polished walkways, that Noah found himself wandering one quiet evening. The air was thicker there, filled with steam and the hum of machines. Most humans avoided these areas, saying it was unsafe or strange. Noah, however, felt drawn to the unknown. He walked slowly, his boots echoing on the metal floor, his eyes scanning every narrow alley and glowing sign. Then he heard it. At first, it was faint, like a whisper under the noise of pipes and engines. But as he followed the sound, it grew clearer, soft, smooth notes that curled through the air like smoke. His heart skipped. It was music. Not just any music, but something familiar, something deeply human. It was jazz. He quickened his steps, following the rhythm as if it were pulling him forward. Finally, he reached a narrow doorway hidden between two tall, rusted walls. A small red light glowed above it, and the music spilled out stronger with every passing second. Noah pushed the door open and stepped inside. The sight stole his breath. The room was dim, lit by hanging lanterns that gave everything a warm, golden glow. The air carried the scent of spice and something sweet, and the walls were covered with posters of human musicians from Earth, names like Coltrane, Davis, and Holiday. Around the room, both humans and aliens sat together, drinking, laughing softly, and swaying to the rhythm. At the far end, on a small stage, stood the source of the music. An alien woman played a strange-looking instrument shaped like a curved glass horn. Her skin shimmered faintly, glowing with hints of blue and silver as the light touched it. Her eyes were bright, almost liquid in their shine, and they closed gently as she poured her heart into each note. The sound was not just Earth's jazz, it was something more. The instrument added layers of soft, haunting tones that blended with the familiar swing. Noah froze near the door, unable to move. He had never heard anything like it. The music wrapped around him, filling his chest with warmth and pulling memories from deep inside old evenings back home, sitting with friends in small cafes, listening to recordings on an old radio. But this was alive. The woman opened her eyes and glanced across the room. For a moment, her gaze landed on Noah. He felt a jolt, like the music itself had reached out to touch him. She smiled gently before turning her attention back to the instrument, her hands moving gracefully as the melody carried on. Noah found an empty seat near the stage, still unable to believe what he had discovered. He watched every detail, the way the alien's fingers danced on the glass horn, the way the crowd leaned forward, caught in the rhythm, and the way the music seemed to erase the differences in the room. Human or alien, it did not matter. Everyone breathed together in the same beat. When the final note faded, silence hung for a long moment, heavy and sweet. Then the room erupted in applause. Some clapped, others gave soft cheers, and a few simply smiled with shining eyes. The woman bowed her head politely, then stepped away from the stage. Noah's hands were still clapping when he realized his heart was racing. Something about this hidden place felt alive in a way the shining towers above never did. It was warm, human, and yet more than human. He wanted to know who she was, how she had learned this music, and why it felt so powerful when she played. As the crowd began to settle again, Noah leaned back in his chair, still caught in the glow of the moment. The underground jazz club was more than just a secret room. It was a heartbeat hidden in the shadows of the city. And Noah, without knowing it, had just stepped into the start of something that would change his life forever. The next evening, Noah could not get the music out of his head. Even when he walked through the crowded streets of the upper city, filled with bright screens and rushing people, his mind was somewhere else, back in that hidden room, hearing the alien woman's glowing notes. The sound had stayed with him like a gentle fire, warming his thoughts and calling him back. He told himself it was just curiosity, but deep inside he knew it was more than that. He wanted to hear her play again. He wanted to know why her music felt so human, even though she was not from Earth. As the lights of the city dimmed into evening, Noah made his way once more down to the lower levels. He followed the path he had taken the night before, listening closely for the faint hum of jazz. The streets were quieter this time, but when he found the doorway with the red light glowing above it, he felt the same rush of excitement. Inside, the club was alive again. The golden lanterns glowed, the tables were filled with people from both worlds, and the warm smell of spice hung in the air. Music was already flowing, but it was softer, just a group of humans playing a slow tune on piano and bass. Noah slid into a seat near the stage, his eyes searching the crowd. And then he saw her. Myra, that was the name whispered by someone at the next table, stood near the stage, speaking quietly with another musician. She wore a simple dark robe that shimmered faintly as she moved, and her silver eyes reflected the lantern light. Noah felt his chest tighten. She was not just unusual, she carried a kind of grace that made it impossible to look away. When it was her turn to perform, the room grew quiet. Myra stepped onto the stage with her glass horn and closed her eyes as she lifted it to her lips. The first note rose like a soft breeze, and the rest followed like waves. This time, Noah listened even closer. He could hear the familiar shapes of jazz, smooth rhythms, playful turns, but also something different. The alien scales slipped between the notes, weaving a pattern that was strange yet beautiful. The crowd swayed, some closing their eyes, others tapping their hands softly on the tables. Noah leaned forward, caught in the spell. It was like hearing two worlds meet inside one song. When the performance ended, the applause was thunderous. Myra bowed her head and stepped off the stage. Noah's heart was beating fast, but he knew he could not leave without speaking to her. Summoning his courage, he rose from his seat and walked toward her. "Your music," he said softly, when he was close enough. "It's beautiful." Myra turned her silver gaze on him, and for a moment he felt as though she could see everything inside him. Then she smiled, a small, warm smile. "Thank you. You are human, yes." Her voice was melodic, each word spoken with care, as if she had practiced the language many times. "Yes," Noah said, nodding. "From Earth. I didn't expect to hear jazz here. Not in this city." Her smile widened slightly. "I did not expect it either, until I found it." She held her instrument close, almost like a part of herself. "A long time ago, a recording reached my hands. Old music, but it touched me. I listened again and again, until I could feel the rhythm inside my own heart. Since then, I play it. I learn. I mix it with my sound." Noah's eyes lit with curiosity. "Who was on the recording?" "A woman," Myra said softly. "Her name was Billie Holiday." The name struck Noah with a rush of recognition. He almost laughed, but not out of mockery, out of pure wonder. Billie Holiday, carried across stars, reaching someone so far from Earth. It was more than music. It was connection. That's incredible, Noah said. She was one of the greats. I grew up listening to her too. Myra tilted her head, her silver eyes thoughtful. Then perhaps you and I hear the same thing. The same feeling. Noah nodded. Yes. The same feeling. For a moment, silence hung between them, but it was not uncomfortable. It was filled with the soft echoes of music and the quiet understanding of two strangers from different worlds. Myra looked down at her horn, then back at him. Do you play? Noah hesitated. A little. Piano. Not as well as you, though. Her smile returned, warmer now. Maybe one night, we play together. Human hands, alien sound. It could be, new. The thought sent a thrill through Noah. He could hardly believe what he was hearing, but deep inside he wanted it more than anything. As the night went on, they spoke longer about music, about Earth, about her world. Every word built a small bridge between them, and every glance carried a spark of something unspoken. Noah realized then that he would keep coming back, not just for the music, but for her. The underground jazz club was no longer just a hidden place of sound. For Noah, it had become the place where two hearts had started to find the same rhythm. Noah returned to the club again and again. Each time, the glowing lanterns, the warm air, and the hum of music greeted him like an old friend. But it was not only the sound of jazz that pulled him back. It was Myra. Every evening, he looked for her silver eyes, her quiet smile, and the way she held her glass horn as if it were part of her soul. At first, their conversations were short. She asked about Earth, and he asked about her world. She wanted to know what the blue oceans looked like, what it felt like to walk barefoot on grass, and how it sounded when rain fell against a window. Noah tried to describe it all in simple words, painting pictures with his voice. In return, Myra spoke of her home, of crystal valleys that sang with the wind, of cities that shone under twin moons, and of songs that her people used to tell stories instead of books. But soon, their talks grew longer. Sometimes they sat in a quiet corner of the club after the music ended, sipping warm drinks and laughing softly at the strange words they tried to teach each other. Other nights, Myra showed him scales and rhythms from her world, and Noah tapped them out on a small piano in the corner. They were different, but somehow their differences made the music richer. One evening, Myra brought her horn and asked Noah to sit beside her. "Play with me," she said simply. Noah hesitated, his hands nervous as he touched the piano keys. "I'm not that good." She tilted her head, smiling gently. "It is not about being good. It is about feeling." So he began. At first, his fingers stumbled on the notes, but Myra's sound wrapped around his mistakes, smoothing them into the rhythm. Soon, he relaxed, and the two of them found a melody together. The piano carried the familiar heartbeat of Earth's jazz, while the horn added soft, otherworldly light. The sound rose and fell, weaving through the room like a living thing. The audience watched in silence, caught in the unexpected duet. When the last note faded, the room erupted in applause. Noah looked at Myra, and she looked back, her silver eyes shining. For a moment, nothing else mattered. But outside the club, things were different. As Noah walked through the upper streets the next day, he overheard whispers. Some humans spoke with unease about the growing closeness between people and aliens. They said Earth's culture should remain pure, untouched. Others muttered that aliens were using human music for strange purposes, blending it with things that did not belong. Noah felt a heavy knot in his stomach. He knew they would not understand Myra, nor the beauty of what they had created together. Myra, too, felt the pressure. After one performance, she told Noah that some of her own people disapproved. They say human music is too wild, too open. They fear it will change us. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried worry. Noah reached across the table, his hand resting near hers without quite touching. But isn't that what music is supposed to do? Change us? Myra's gaze softened. She nodded slowly. Yes. That is why I play. Because it changes me. It makes me feel closer to something bigger. Something human. Her words stayed with Noah long after he left the club that night. He thought about the power of music, the way it could bridge worlds, the way it could carry memories across stars. Humanity had always held onto its culture, even in the darkest times. And now, that culture was touching lives beyond Earth. Over the following weeks, Noah and Myra grew closer. They performed together often, each night blending Earth and alien sounds into something new. The crowd began to look forward to their duets, filling the club with eager listeners. Laughter and cheers followed their performances, and whispers spread through the city about the human and alien who played as one. But in the shadows, not everyone approved. Patrols passed by the club more often, their glowing uniforms a reminder that the authorities were watching. Rumors spread that the underground gatherings were dangerous, that they encouraged rebellion through art. Noah noticed the tension growing, but he refused to stop coming. The music was worth the risk. And Myra, she was worth even more. One night, after a performance that left the audience breathless, Noah and Myra sat together as the club slowly emptied. The lanterns burned low, and the room grew quiet except for the faint hum of machines outside. You know, Noah said softly, when we play together, I forget where I am. I forget that this isn't Earth, that everything around me is strange. I just feel at home. Myra looked at him with her shimmering eyes. I feel the same. When you play, Noah, I hear something I cannot explain. It is not just music. It is human spirit. Her words warmed him more than any applause ever could. He realized then that what they were building was more than just sound. It was trust, friendship, and perhaps something deeper, something neither of them dared to name yet. The underground jazz club had become their stage, their meeting place, and their safe corner in a city that did not fully accept them. But Noah knew it could not stay safe forever. For now, though, he let the thought rest. He wanted to hold on to the moment, the glow of the lanterns, the quiet of the room, and the way Myra's presence made the world feel alive. The underground jazz club had grown busier with every passing week. Word spread about the unusual performances of a human and an alien blending sounds into something entirely new. More faces appeared at the tables, humans curious to hear their music, aliens drawn by the unfamiliar rhythms. The lanterns glowed brighter, and the laughter after each song seemed to last longer. But outside the golden glow of the club, the city was changing. Patrols passed by more often, their boots heavy on the metal floors of the lower levels. Posters appeared on walls warning against unregulated gatherings. Whispers reached the visitors that the authorities were watching the club closely. The city leaders did not like places where humans and aliens mixed too freely, especially not through music that carried strong emotions. One evening, Myra's silver eyes carried a shadow of worry as she tuned her horn. She glanced around the room before looking at Noah. The club is in danger, she said softly. Noah frowned. Danger? From who? From the city, Myra answered. The authorities believe this place spreads ideas. They fear humans bring rebellion with their songs. They say jazz makes people question rules. Noah felt heat rise in his chest. That's ridiculous. It's just music. Myra shook her head gently. It is never just music. That is why it is powerful. Her words stayed with him through the evening. When they performed, Noah could feel the weight of every note. The audience cheered, but his eyes kept flicking to the door, half expecting a patrol to burst inside. After the performance, he sat with Myra at a corner table. The crowd slowly thinned, leaving only soft voices and the smell of spice in the air. Myra held her horn close, her fingers tracing its smooth surface. "I do not want to lose this place," she whispered. "It is the only place where I feel free. Here, I can play what I love. Here, I can be myself." Noah leaned forward, his voice firm. "Then we won't let them take it? We'll protect it?" Myra looked at him with cautious hope. "How can we protect it against the city?" "By doing what we do best," Noah said. "By playing. By showing them why this matters. They can shut down buildings, but they can't silence what people feel in here." He tapped his chest. Her silver eyes softened, and for a moment, her lips curved into a faint smile. "You speak with such fire. It is very human." Noah chuckled. "Humans are stubborn. When we love something, we fight for it. And he stopped himself, choosing his words carefully. "And I love what we've built here." Myra held his gaze, and though she said nothing, the quiet between them carried more meaning than words could. The following nights, tension hung in the air. The club was still filled, but visitors glanced nervously at the door whenever footsteps echoed outside. Some came less often, afraid of trouble. Yet Noah and Myra continued to play, their music stronger than ever. The fear only pushed them closer, as if each performance was an act of defiance. One night, a group of humans approached Noah after their set. "You shouldn't be here," one of them warned. "The authorities are watching. If you keep mixing with aliens like this, you'll bring trouble on yourself." Noah stood tall. "If music is trouble, then maybe the city needs it." The men shook their heads and left, muttering. But Noah's heart did not waver. Instead, it burned brighter. Later, Myra found him alone by the stage, staring at the piano keys. "You should be careful," she said gently. He looked up at her. "I don't care about careful. I care about the music. I care about you." Her silver eyes widened slightly, and she lowered her gaze. "You do not fear what may come." "Of course I fear it," Noah admitted. "But humans don't stop because of fear. We push forward. That's how we've always survived." Myra was silent for a long time. Then she reached out, placing her slender hand lightly over his. "Then perhaps I will be brave too." The touch was brief, but it filled Noah with warmth. He knew then that they were no longer just partners on stage, they were allies in something bigger. The underground jazz club was no longer only a place for music. It had become a beacon, a spark in the shadows. And sparks, Noah thought, could light fires. As the lanterns dimmed and the last guests left, Myra and Noah sat together in the quiet. Neither spoke much, but both felt the weight of what lay ahead. Trouble was coming, yet so was something stronger, something built from trust, courage, and the rhythm of two worlds meeting as one. And in that quiet, Noah made a silent promise: no matter what happened, he would not let the music or Myra be silenced. The tension that had been building around the club finally began to show itself. Patrols walked past the narrow doorway more often, their heavy boots echoing through the lower levels. Guests arrived with quick glances over their shoulders, whispering to each other as they slipped inside. Even the lanterns seemed dimmer, as if the room itself could feel the weight of what was coming. Noah noticed it first in the audience. Where once there had been easy laughter and warm clapping, now there was a quiet nervousness. Some people still swayed with the rhythm, but their eyes often flicked toward the door, waiting for trouble to step in. Others stopped coming altogether, afraid that being seen here would put them on a watch list. Myra felt it too. Her silver eyes carried more worry than before, though she tried to hide it behind her calm smile. One evening, after their performance ended, she pulled Noah aside into a corner of the club. "They will come soon," she said softly. "The city leaders do not want this place to live. They fear it will grow." Noah met her gaze firmly. "Then let them come. They'll see what this means to people. We won't let them shut it down without a fight." Myra shook her head. "But we are not fighters, Noah. We are musicians." Noah leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Music is our fight. It always has been. On Earth, people played jazz when they had nothing else, when the world tried to keep them quiet. They kept playing because it meant they were still alive, still free." Myra studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Then we must play louder than ever before." That night, they spoke with the club owner, an older human named Rami. His face was lined with worry, but his eyes still carried pride. "If they shut us down, so be it," he said. "But if we are to go, we go with sound that shakes their walls." And so a plan was born. The musicians, human and alien alike, agreed to prepare one grand performance one final night that would remind the city why this club existed. They would gather everyone, fill the room with life, and let the music carry into the streets. In the days that followed, the preparations filled every corner of the club. Instruments were polished, new rhythms were practiced, and Myra worked with Noah on a duet unlike anything they had played before. He brought the deep, steady pulse of Earth's jazz on the piano, while she added shimmering scales from her world. Together, the sound grew until it felt like fire and water meeting in harmony. As they practiced, Noah caught himself watching her more often than the keys. The way she moved with her horn, the way her silver eyes lit up when she found the perfect note, it all pulled him closer. One evening, when their song ended, he whispered, "Myra, no matter what happens, I'm glad I found this place. I'm glad I found you." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, her voice trembled. "I feel the same. This music, it has given me more than I ever expected." The night of the performance arrived. The club was filled to the brim, every seat taken, every corner crowded. Lanterns glowed brighter than usual, as if they too understood the importance of this night. People spoke in hushed voices, some nervous, others excited. Outside, the sound of heavy boots echoed faintly. The patrols were near. Noah sat at the piano, his hands trembling slightly, not from fear but from the weight of the moment. Myra stood beside him, her horn shining under the golden light. She glanced at him and gave a small nod. He nodded back. And then they began. The first notes were soft, almost like a whisper. The room leaned forward, listening. Slowly, the melody grew, carried by Noah's steady rhythm and Myra's soaring sound. The two voices of their instruments twined together, rising higher and higher until the walls themselves seemed to vibrate. The crowd erupted into claps and cheers, but Noah and Myra did not stop. They poured everything into the music, the fear, the hope, the love for what they had created. Each note was a spark, and together the sparks became a fire. The room no longer felt small, it felt endless. Outside, patrols gathered at the doorway, but even they paused, caught by the sound. The music reached them too, slipping past their armor, tugging at memories and feelings they could not deny. For Noah, it was more than a performance. It was a declaration. Humanity's spirit was alive, and through Myra's voice it had found a partner, a harmony that no wall or order could silence. When the final note rang out, silence filled the room, thick, powerful, unbroken. Then, as if on cue, the crowd roared. Applause shook the tables, cheers filled the air, and some even stood with tears in their eyes. Noah turned to Myra, his chest heaving, and she looked back at him with shining silver eyes. In that moment, he knew this was more than music. This was their stand. This was their promise. The authorities could try to close the club, but they could never silence the heat that had been lit inside it. The night of the final performance arrived, and the underground jazz club was alive with energy like never before. Every table was filled, every corner packed with humans and aliens alike. The lanterns glowed warmly, casting golden light across faces filled with excitement and nervous anticipation. People whispered about what was about to happen. Rumors of the city authorities' interference had spread, but no one wanted to leave. Noah and Myra stood together backstage, taking a deep breath before stepping into the light. Noah's hands hovered over the piano keys, feeling the weight of the moment. Myra held her glass horn with a quiet grace, her silver eyes reflecting both determination and a soft nervousness. "You ready?" Noah whispered. Myra nodded. "We do this together." As they began, the first notes were soft, almost hesitant. The music was careful at first, letting the audience find their rhythm. Then, as the melody grew, Noah's piano struck stronger, and Myra's horn answered with shimmering alien tones. Together, they created a sound that was both earth and beyond, something that no one had heard before. The room reacted instantly. People leaned forward, some closing their eyes, others tapping along with the rhythm. The music seemed to stretch, flowing into every corner, connecting humans and aliens alike. Each note carried more than melody, it carried emotion, hope, and courage. Outside, footsteps echoed. The patrols had come. Heavy boots and glowing uniforms approached the door, but when the first officer paused at the doorway, the music reached him. He stopped, his hand hovering over his communicator, and listened. Something in the melody slowed his step. The rhythm spoke of connection, of unity, of joy that could not be controlled. Inside, the club seemed to grow larger. The audience moved together as if drawn by an invisible current. The music rose higher, cascading like a wave of fire and light. Noah and Myra's duet was no longer just sound, it was a force, an invisible bridge that carried energy through the room. Noah glanced at Myra, and for a brief moment, they shared a silent understanding. This was their stand, their statement. It was more than performance, it was defiance through creation. Myra's horn soared over the piano, carrying alien scales that twisted and danced, yet somehow fit perfectly with the human jazz foundation. The two sounds became one, inseparable and powerful. Even the most cautious listeners could not resist. Humans and aliens tapped their feet, clapped, and swayed together. The room vibrated with energy, and laughter, cheers, and sighs of awe filled the air. The authorities outside hesitated, unsure whether to enter or leave. The music had spoken louder than any warning ever could. The song built to a climax, every note faster, stronger, brighter. Noah's fingers flew across the keys, each chord rising in intensity, while Myra's horn cut through the room with piercing beauty. It felt like the walls themselves were alive, shaking gently with the combined energy of the players and the audience. And then, just as suddenly, the music slowed. The final note lingered in the air, vibrating with resonance that seemed to last for seconds beyond reason. Silence followed, a heavy, powerful silence, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Then the applause began. Slowly at first, then growing louder until it filled every corner of the club and echoed down the corridors outside. People stood, cheering, clapping, shouting. Some wiped tears from their eyes, others laughed with pure joy. The authorities remained at the door, frozen, unable to break the spell of what they had heard. Noah turned to Myra, his chest heaving, and she looked back at him with shining eyes, both tired and exhilarated. They did not speak, but the connection between them was clear. They had done it. They had protected the club, not with weapons or anger, but with music and courage. For a long moment, they simply stood there, hand in hand, looking out at the crowd. Around them, the room vibrated with joy, hope, and unity. The underground jazz club had survived, and it had become more than a hidden corner of the city. It had become a symbol. A symbol of courage, of humanity's spirit, and of the possibility of connection between worlds. Noah and Myra knew that more challenges could come. The city might try again to suppress the club, but now they had proof that the heart of the people could not be silenced. Together, they had created something stronger than fear, a bond that could not be broken, a music that could not be stopped. As the lanterns glowed softly and the last notes faded from memory, Noah whispered to Myra, "We did it. Together." Myra smiled, her silver eyes glowing. "Together," she repeated. And for the first time that night, both of them felt a quiet, unshakable peace. The underground jazz club had survived the night. And inside, so had something more, something human, something alien, something entirely theirs. The morning after the performance, the underground jazz club felt different. The lanterns still glowed, and the walls were lined with posters, but the energy in the air was lighter, freer. The night had changed something both in the club and in the people who came there. Guests arrived earlier, their faces hopeful rather than cautious. Rumors of the extraordinary performance spread quickly, and more humans and aliens ventured inside to witness the music for themselves. Noah walked through the familiar doorway, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. Myra was already there, tuning her glass horn, her silver eyes bright and calm. She glanced up at him and smiled, a smile that carried relief, joy, and a quiet warmth that made his heart skip. "You came early," she said softly. "I wanted to see the club awake after last night," Noah replied. "It feels alive." Myra nodded. "It is alive. And it will stay alive." For the first time, they could step back and look at what they had built together. It was not just music. It was connection, courage, and hope. Through their notes, humans and aliens had come together, finding understanding where fear had once existed. The performance had left its mark, not only on the audience but on the city itself. As the day passed, people returned, bringing friends, instruments, and curiosity. They shared stories of the night before, how the music had lifted spirits, how it had carried feelings too deep for words. Others who had doubted the club's value now came to listen, and slowly, the whispers of fear faded into murmurs of admiration. Noah and Myra prepared for another set, but this time, there was no tension, No worry about the patrols. Their music was free, flowing from them naturally. They played with a calm confidence, weaving together rhythms from Earth and her alien world, creating melodies that felt familiar yet brand new. Every note seemed to smile, to reach out to the audience and invite them into the harmony. After the set, Noah and Myra sat together near the stage, sharing a quiet moment. Around them, the club buzzed with conversation and laughter. "You know," Noah said, looking at Myra, "I never thought I would find something like this here. A place where we can just be. Where music can speak for us." Myra's silver eyes met his, and she placed a hand lightly on his. "I never thought I would feel so connected. Music brought us together, but it is more than that. It is trust, friendship, maybe even love." Noah's chest warmed at her words. He reached out, gently holding her hand. "I feel it too. What we have, it is special. Something that can't be taken away." Myra smiled, a soft, bright smile that made the room feel warmer. "Then let us keep it alive. For the club, for the people, and for ourselves." Days passed, and the underground jazz club became more than a hidden spot. It became a symbol, a reminder that human spirit and creativity could reach beyond boundaries, that connections could flourish even in a city divided by fear and caution. People came from all walks of life, curious and eager to hear the melodies that blended worlds. Each performance was celebrated, each note cherished. Noah and Myra continued to play together, their bond growing with every song. Off stage, they explored the city, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments. Their friendship blossomed into something deeper, grounded in respect, trust, and the shared language of music. One evening, after another full house of cheering fans, Noah looked at Myra and said softly, "We've made something important here. Not just for us, but for everyone who walks through these doors." Myra nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the soft lantern light. "Yes. And it will continue, because people will come. Music is stronger than fear. And love is stronger than everything." They sat together for a while, watching the city lights glimmer outside the windows. The streets that once seemed daunting and strange now felt full of possibility. The future was uncertain, but they knew one thing: whatever challenges came, they would face them together, with music in their hearts and courage in their souls. As the lanterns dimmed and the last notes of the evening drifted into the air, Noah and Myra stood side by side. The underground jazz club had survived threats, doubts, and fear. It had become a place of warmth, of unity, and of joy. And at its heart were two beings who had dared to connect across worlds, to find harmony not only in music but in each other. In that quiet moment, they shared a glance, full of unspoken understanding. The journey had been long, the struggle real, but the reward was greater than either had imagined. They had created more than a song, they had created hope, friendship, and a love that resonated as powerfully as every note they played. And in the heart of the underground jazz club, the music never stopped.